All right, we are live. Give it a few minutes for anyone to join if they are interested or around. But um, welcome to with me the live show that I'm doing every once in a while. Pivoting the show into something a little bit different, where I'm going to carve a project that's inspired by each guest of an episode of the podcast. So for this episode, I'm going to start with Cody Bonham from Block and Knife. And Cody is known for carving ghosts, amongst other things, but that's what I first recognize from him. And yeah, I'm going to carve something in his style. So each episode of these live sessions will be done in the style and inspired by a guest of the show. So yeah, I hope you guys like it. And if you have any questions, send it in the chat and I'll answer it. I'm also going to talk about a little bit of the ins and outs of the show, specifically the episode of the guest that I'm carving their style in. So in this case, I'll be talking about what I learned from Cody, our friendship, and a little bit about the episode. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. And yeah, if you got any questions, write it in the chat. I'm going to flip the camera around, get my setup going. All right. I could put it in landscape mode. So just bear with me while I adjust that up here. All right. I think that should do it. So, like I said, I'm going to be carving a piece that is inspired by Cody from Block and Knife. And I'm going to be carving a ghost character, which is something that he used to do a lot of. And I think they're just really cool. All right. So, to start, I'm using a piece of basswood that's an inch and a half by an inch and a half by 4 inches. Now, I did previously cut it out on the bandsaw just to save some time. This is his feet, his legs, and here's where the ghost character will be. I'll kind of sketch that on. It's going to be super simple, nothing crazy. Yeah, quick little project. I haven't decided which knife I'm going to use. I think I'm going to use my Helvy knife because I feel like it's a little sharper at the moment. So, to start off, like I said, I'm going to talk about what I learned from my episode with Cody and a little bit more about the show. So, when I first decided I wanted to do the podcast, I needed to figure out list of guests that I wanted to have on the show. And I've known Cody for a number of years now, and our friendship kind of just started randomly on Instagram. I can't really remember how it started. I just know like we'd send comments back and forth, the occasional message on how did you do this or how did you do that, and yeah, just over the years we just kind of kept talking and learning a little bit more about each other, and we had a lot more in common than we realized. And it was kind of refreshing to make a friend that lives nowhere near me, lives many, many states away. But we were kind of just brought together by one common interest initially, which is wood carving. And yeah, a friendship just kind of developed. I'm super grateful for that friendship. Cody's a great guy, and I really love his style and I love his carvings. And he's a hustler, man. He really carves away. He does a lot of carving, more production mode because he sells on Etsy. You know, that's not an easy thing. I've picked his brain a lot over the years on Etsy. He's been my kind of main go-to navigating the pitfalls of Etsy, and he's been super helpful. And I'm really appreciative of that. Just I have no idea where he finds the time or is able to keep up the pace he does with Etsy. It's really impressive. All right, we got some people in the chat. Hello. What's make? What does that mean? What am I making? I'm carving a ghost character, inspired by my friend Cody Bonham from Block and Knife. So yeah, so when I started the podcast, Cody was just a no-brainer person to ask to be on the show, and because I've been friends with him for so long, and I just respect his work and what he does, and he's been really helpful to me. I just wanted to give him that first guest episode slot, and I'm really glad I that he was able to do it. One, and that I was able to actually get the podcast on its feet. Um, a little bit challenging doing something new and trying something that I've never done before. So it's been a lot of fun. So with this carving, I'm basically just kind of roughing out the shape of the ghost. You can see I want him to have a round head and like he's wearing a sheet over his head. So it's basically just removing a lot of unwanted material and getting this round shape. Moving along. Now, I said I was going to share some behind the scenes things and some things I've learned from Cody. And one thing I learned from Cody is to, I don't know, I learned quite a bit from him. Um, but I guess one thing is to make sure to put your work out there, because there is people that would be interested in wanting to buy it. It's the more you put into Etsy, the more you'll get out of it. Etsy doesn't work for a lot of people. I think that's because people will upload something to Etsy, one or two items, they'll just leave it alone. Unfortunately, that's not really how Etsy works. They want you to be active, constantly uploading, constantly posting, selling, feedback. It can become a lot of work. What you put into it is what you get out of it. That's one thing I kind of learned. from Cody is how to navigate Etsy and get your work out there. All right. Overall shape is kind of coming together. Let me just round this off a little bit more. I don't want to burn through this super quick either, because it is a fairly simple project. And one of the great things about these ghosts is you can do them in any size block. You can use a 1 by 1, a 2 by 2. You can use something smaller, wider, stockier. It translates really well. You can do ghosts with pumpkins on them and scary faces and all types of weird things. All right, he's pretty much rounded off. Gonna remove a lot of the saw marks that are left. We'll move on to the next part. All right, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Probably should have marked this beforehand. Center line for his feet. Doesn't hurt to have. It's not very centered. All right, next thing I want to do is we want to get his legs tucked in underneath his sheet here. We kind of want to remove this material out here. Simple. We just make a stop cut along the bottom of that sheet of the ghost, and we just carve up into it. We find a better way to hold it so you don't cut yourself. Hope all of you have been enjoying the podcast so far. It's been a lot of fun doing it. It's been really inspiring for me getting to meet everyone and learn their process and their journey. And I have been, after I speak to a guest, I've actually been carving something in their style just because I've been so inspired by them. Really helped me expand my, I guess, my skill, or not even my skill, but it's just kind of opening up new avenues of carvings for me. Things that I probably wouldn't have tried if I didn't talk to these people. And so we got his feet in. One thing I like to do is go on the bottom and angle his feet towards the back. Gives his feet kind of like a splayed out look. Cross that way. Cut to our pencil line. It's a really nice piece of basswood. It's nice and soft. It's pretty refreshing because some of the pieces I've been working on lately, the wood has been like a rock. All right. Those feet are still pretty blocky. I want to just kind of those over. One of my latest guests, who I'm not going to mention who I spoke to, it's been inspiring me to get into a little bit more flat plane style. I've been really trying to focus on making these really angular type of cuts. You can see that. What's kind of funny is when I first started carving, I didn't like the flat plane look. I thought it looked unfinished. And I don't know, it looked too minimalistic for me and too unfinished looking. And I felt like there was no real skill involved doing it, which I quickly later learned is there's a lot of skill involved because you need to be pretty precise. You can't hide behind anything when you do flat plane. Yeah, I've been wanting to explore that a little bit more these days. I guess I'm kind of doing that now to some degree. If you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to ask. Helps kind of drive these lives a little bit, kind of run out of things to talk about. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. I want to separate his feet now. A couple of V notches, V cuts, whatever you want to call them. Get in there pretty deep. One thing I love that Cody's been doing lately are these, I guess they're ghost candles, you'd call them. They're really cool, and he's been pretty successful with them. They've been pretty popular. Really grateful that he is able to keep coming up with these really interesting ideas and executing them, and that they people actually like them. His work is great, and you know what? He's a really great painter as well, which is something I hate, as most of you already know. Cannot be bothered to paint anything. It really annoys me. Takes a lot of time. My painting section is always backed up. For me, painting is not the hobby. All right. I think I want this guy to have like big stompy kind of boots anyway. I like that bulky, blocky look. Since the episode with Cody, I forget what it's titled, but it's from wood carvers to friends or something like that. I want to know, has anyone of you out there made a significant friendship through wood carving? Or many of you have. But I'm curious to hear about your friendship that you struck up with a fellow wood carver that potentially lives across the country or even across the world. Because I've met some really talented carvers across the world as well who are now becoming pretty good friends. Another Friend of mine would be Tom Parr, who was on another episode of the podcast. Another talented guy. Love his style. Love what he does. So yeah, I've made quite a few friendships through this hobby and through the podcast. I'm grateful for that, if nothing else. We got a comment. What size block did I start with? I started with an inch and a half by inch and a half by 4 inch block. Um, I wouldn't get too hung up on the actual size of the block. This is just kind of what I had. You can use 1 inch by 1 inch. If you do 1 inch by 1 inch, tend to stick with 3 inches instead of four. I don't know, four seems to look a little ridiculous at that size. Your carvings, you do what you want, whatever makes you happy. There's no rules. All right. I always like to have the pants drooping down off the side of the shoe. And I should probably separate his legs in the back. Blocky. It's actually a really good beginner project as well, because there's not a face that you have to worry about. There's no ears or mouth or eyes. Mm, There's no arms. I guess you could add arms if you wanted, but nice, simple project. You just kind of have to worry about rough shapes initially. And then if you want, you could add a ton of detail, which maybe I'll do. I'll add some folds and wrinkles in the feet here. Want to get rid of these saw marks. I'm gonna leave this guy with all these like flat planed gold cuts. Going against the grain there. It always brings me to a point. If you're trying to make a cut and it seems really dangerous and you don't feel confident, don't make the cut. Stop, take a look at it, think about it, flip it around a few times, see what works best, what doesn't. Because the last thing you need is a trip to the ER and carve a little ghost. Right, I'm just cutting in the ants. Just cut the shoe into the leg there. Do the same thing on the other side. I'm not getting any real questions or chat. I'm wondering if maybe something's going on. I know the last one I did, people said they were sending me messages and I was never able to actually see them. I'm not sure. Maybe someone out there who knows more about this than me can tell me. Maybe I'm doing something. All right. We got his pant legs cut in. Define that shoe a little more. Seems to be working fine. Thanks. Hope so. Also, the last time I did one of these live sessions, my Wi-Fi cut out in the middle, which essentially kicked everyone out of the chat or the live stream. And I didn't realize until about 20 minutes later that it was over and it never uploaded the rest of the video. So if you go back and you watch my last live, it just cuts abruptly out of nowhere. And no explanation. It's all learning curve. This is a pretty finicky spot here. There's not a lot of wiggle room for your knife. But if you're patient, or if you have a smaller knife, maybe my your state blade would well here narrow. Hope you guys are able to see this. I know I'm flipping things around a lot, and maybe I'm not centered. The most comfortable thing to do, carving with a run in your face, blocking half your view. All right. We got the front of his legs cut in. A little bit of a mess right there. Clean that up. Now, when I first saw Cody do one of these, I believe he had a little knife holding out of one of his hands. And that was a really cool idea. I like that. I'm not going to do that today, but over his feet. All of you who are in the chat right now, what is it that you're carving this week or working on? I'd love to know. Melvin says hi. Hey, Melvin, how are you? Thanks for joining. All right, our ghost is taking shape. Really hyper fixated on his legs here. All right, let's move on. Spent enough time on his legs. All right, now ghost, his face. You could do a lot of different things. Robert said he's working on a walking stick. That's really cool. I always wanted to do one of those. I've seen one on YouTube, I think it is, of someone who does a walking stick and has like a really cool snake that wraps around it. Yeah, it's one that I just kind of see that pops up all over YouTube. Everywhere. All right. Now for his face, do we want what kind of ghost face do we want? Normal eyes? That? Maybe we want something. We want an angry ghost. I don't think I like the angry ghost. About a sad ghost. What do you guys think? Normal, sad, angry, surprised? What does a surprised ghost look like? See. About surprised ghost. Does that look surprised? No. Yeah, let's go with surprised. Why not? Now you could do this a couple different ways. You could use your knife, or you can use a little V tool. I got one of these little micro veiner tools. I like the veiner better than the V. The V, for some reason, I don't have good results with. Maybe it's user error. Like the veiner, gives a nice depth of cut to it. You can control it a little better. I just trace around the eye that I just drew. Find the easiest way is to come start at the top and I go one half and then I switch and do the other half instead of trying to do it in one full motion. I don't like to round the top or the bottom. If you do that, you tend to get these points that just don't look too good. So I just come in at the top, trace around the halfway point, come in from the other side, trace around. You can take your time with this, no rush. There you go. You got two little cut in eyes. That's all you really need, especially if you're painting it. You don't need to go any deeper. You can, if you wanted to, with your knife, just cut in a little bit more. I'm only really doing this to show you that you can do it. Be careful. You can do this without using the V tool, just with your knife. And then you can just kind of round over that eye. And when you do this, you tend to kind of chew things up a little bit, not careful. Helps if you have a very sharp knife, you have good coordination. So you see how that just kind of deepens it and rounds it over, gives it a little bit more shape. Of course, what you do to one, you got to do to the other. We're going to do the other eye. And back to Cody, when he paints these things, he paints them all these really cool types of colors. One of my favorites that he does is the galaxy style looking pieces where he'll either paint it black and then he'll splatter like white stars or dust all over it. It gives it this really cool outer space look. Sometimes he adds some other like black and blue and yellow and all these little different subtle colors that go together really well. Pencil line. All right, we got a mouth that we're gonna cut in. So I'm gonna just same V tool, just come in and the chips out. You could also use a small little drill bit if you have it. Clean up some pencil lines and the chips that are left behind. All right, now we have a little surprised shocked ghost. Now you could leave it like this. It's an acceptable piece, just like that. To me, it still looks very unfinished. I like to add some more details because he's wearing a sheet. So sheets are draped over and they have wrinkles and folds and all types of funniness going on. So I'm going to draw a bunch of little squiggly type lines. You could think about this a lot more and think what tucks in under where and how it would fold and how it would drape over, but just a wood carving. Who cares? Don't take it so serious. So I just draw a bunch of random squiggly lines just like that. And again, you could either use the V tool or you can use your knife. I actually don't like having to swap out tools if I can help it. So I usually predominantly carve 95% with the knife. I'll only ever reach for these little V tools or gouges when it's absolutely necessary, either to make life easier or just because I have it right in front of me. So here I like to go in pretty deep, um, a line. And you could do each line, go all the way around. I tend to just do one at a time. So I did that line. And then I want to figure out where I want to cut into it. So I want this side to pop out. I'll just undercut on this side. We do a couple of passes. And you see how it gives it of a fold. Next, I'll go to the second line. Now, I imagine this part would be sticking out, and then this side will be tucked in. So I'll come in from this side. And you can start shallower at the top and then cut in deeper towards the bottom to go back a couple of times to chips out. There we go. We got the other side. Moving on. Next line. You also don't have to think about this too much. You could just pick side. What I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna wing it. Keep going. And you can make these lines short, tall, whatever you want to do. Maybe we'll go back in and add a couple of smaller ones. So what would you call these? Folds or wrinkles? I guess they're folds. And you can see how quickly these little projects can come together. I'm not really moving very fast on this. You could definitely knock one of these out in 20, 30 minutes. And if you don't add any legs, it'll probably be even faster. The joy of carving is sometimes taking your time and enjoying the process, necessarily rushing to finish something. Almost there with these folds or wrinkles. All right, we made our way all the way around. Be stubborn now. Last little sliver. There we go. Next thing, again, totally optional. I like to go in on the other side that we didn't touch and just kind of break away that sharp edge. Not necessary. I think it helps soften the look and also just helps with the painting process. Where if you paint it, any hard edge isn't going to hold the paint too well. And that's going to be the first part that'll chip, where the paint will chip away. And you'll start to see that wood spot left over, which is something you probably don't want. You're painting it. So any of these hard edges, you kind of just want to knock away. Just going back and chin off the other side, which you could have done in the moment when you're carving each line here, but sometimes it's helpful to be systematic with how you do things. Do things one step at a. Okay, now another thing you could do to really make these folds stand out, you can go in the bottom like this, cut a line, and then just sliver. Do that with each line you cut. He has one. And totally optional, but you'll see in a minute the kind of effect that it leaves. See how it creates some of these shadow lines? And you can get even crazier where you can start to scoop things out. Those edges look kind of funny. You can really do whatever you want. Just don't be afraid to try new things, new techniques. Don't be afraid to ruin a piece. I think that looks pretty cool. Get rid of these pencil lines. And I really like these orange pencils, pencil lead. Uh, Actually, Tom Parr put me onto these. I was always using black, and the black always smudged on my fingers, and it would get the piece all dirty and kind of grimy. And I don't have that with the orange. And the orange kind of really stands out against the wood, makes it a little easier to see. Oh, one thing that I've done on some other ghosts that I think looks pretty cool is given these little bags. Best way I found to do this is with the V tool or the veiner. Can't really get away with doing it with the knife. Guess you could try, but it'll look too sharp. Sometimes you just kind of need that soft edge for the yeah. It's a little cute shocked ghost. Um, we're pretty much done. The only thing left really to do, I mean, like I said, you can go crazy. You can add more details if you want. You can add little hats and little cuts. Maybe you can add a tear. Maybe he has a tear. Maybe he's a poor ghost. Can afford a new sheet. So I draw a mirrored image of a rip in and trace that outline. So the top part you're gonna notch out in that outline that we just created, because that's where the sheet is ripping from. Just gonna dig out that piece of wood. I'm doing this a little bit quicker. You should just take your time with it. Helps if you're using a smaller detail knife for these types. Doesn't really matter the tools. You can get away with almost anything as long as you're comfortable with the tool you're using. Take your time, be patient. You'll get there. Got a question. What type of knife am I using? I am using a Helvy. I believe it is a inch and a quarter. No, inch and three quarter Helvy knife. All I really know about it. I don't know the other details of it, but I also have here a Badger State blade. I should also mention I use this flex cut carving jack. I love this thing. This is my everyday carry. I carry it with me everywhere I go. A block of wood in my pocket. So I use that more than anything when I'm home and I have the luxury of using my specialty knives. I'll use them, but a lot of the times I'm kind of whittling on the go or out and about on my lunch break. I don't want to carry some of my nicer knives with me. They're a little bit harder to walk around with. Plus, I'm afraid of dropping them or losing them. So, all right, now we're just going to trace the outline of the bottom flap of the tear and cut around it. So that is out. Hope this is showing through okay on the camera. All right. You want to be careful because you could very easily, while you're cleaning up around it, slip and just remove the entire flap that you just created, done before. So you can see that. There's the tear, fold. Now, to make this look a little better, you really want to dig out around that bottom flap here. And doing so, you may need to go back in and reset because that starts to get thinner, I guess, or wear down. You could just go back in, reset that. All right. The last thing I want to do to this hair area is I want to break those edges again, very minimal. Just remove any of those sharp edges, give it a little bit of a softer look. Helps if you have a little brush to remove some of the fuzziness. So we soften the top edges and now we want to soften the bottom edges here. This part you need to be a little bit more careful because things tend to splinter away and you can lose the shape that you just worked to create. Just like that. Again, I'm going to remove the pencil. There, you have a little tear in his sheet here. Gonna give him a little bit more shape here, some more facets. 'Cause he's starting to look a little, I don't know, too blocky for my taste. In doing so, you might have to reestablish some of the things you cut away, but his head look a little more blocky. So we're back in, reshape his head. Art can be a little tough because it's all end grain. You have a sharp knife, helpful. Drop your knife. Over the years, I've copied a lot of Cody's work. He's done some really cool things. And yeah, it's nice having friends that really inspire your own work. And I know a lot of these may not be original ideas, but I do like when an artist takes an idea and puts their own spin on it. And Cody definitely has his own style and his own spin on a lot of these things. I try to take he does or what other people do and put my own spin on it. So we got his face, shape, feet. You could add some things to the feet too. Again, you can go crazy with details if you really want to. You can add these little soles of his boots here. Again, the easiest way is to use a little V tool or a veiner you can come across, or you can use a knife and you can just make little V cuts. The tools really don't matter. It's helpful if you have them, but like I said, you can get by with just about anything. Just switch back to the veiner for this because I have it. I just wanted to show you that you could do it with a knife if you don't have a V tool or veiner. Other thing I like to do is soften the bottom edge when he sits on a table surface. There's a little shadow underneath, gives it a nice little finished look to it. See that little bevel? You could add shoelaces if you want. You could have a ripped open shoe. All right. The last thing I'm going to do before we call this guy done is I'm just going to remove some of these saw marks. Do a little once over, make sure everything looks good. I'm gonna add little wrinkled details in his pants, just a couple of V cuts. Don't get hung up on it being even or symmetrical. It could be whatever you want it to be. Maybe he has two wrinkles in one leg and one in the other. Around the sides, and wrinkles, whichever which way you want. And again, just like the wrinkles in his sheet, you could pay attention to how pants flow and fold down over the ankles. You could would assume they would all bunch up right here at the bottom, so you can add a lot more details there. Where they wrap around, or you could just do whatever you want. It go any which way, something like that. I tend to personally like the symmetrical look if I can do it. A lot of my stuff is symmetrical. Like you can see here, I have a gnome that I carved. I challenge myself and do everything symmetrical. Same thing with this guy. But again, doesn't matter. Do whatever you want to do. Right. He's got his pant all wrinkled up. His shoes are cut in. His face is in there. And this guy is done. Let's give him a little splash of water. You can kind of see what he looks like finished. Get an idea. There you go. There's your little ghost guy. Watch the camera here. All right, guys. Here's our little ghost guy that we just carved. He's a lot of fun. You can, like I said, you can really batch these things out. You could do a lot of crazy things, add a lot of details. Yeah. So I hope you guys try doing this. I just want to say thank you to Cody. He was the first guest on the podcast, and he's a good friend of mine. His work is really inspiring. And yeah, I'm grateful to have good friends in this community and inspiring people to help me on my own carving journey. So if you guys like this episode or these live sessions where I carve in the style of the guests that I have, I'm going to keep doing it. And I may bounce around. Maybe I'll go in the order of which I released the episodes, but who knows? I plan to do these every once in a while. Life is a little bit hectic, so I'll try to give as much notice as I can so people can join in when they want to. Yeah, something new that I want to keep doing. So thanks again. Carve yourself a ghost. Thank you again, Cody. I appreciate your friendship and your inspiration. See you all guys in the next episode of the podcast or the next live. Have a good one.